Hey friends, it's Ruben with Hi-Fi MIDI. Thanks for joining me for this live stream. This is part 3 of episode 5. It's a terrible naming convention for episodes. I mean, episode is a part. So, but that's what I'm calling it because it's still the same project as the last 2 videos. My friend Bridge Capper hired me to recreate a Sonic theme, Sonic the Hedgehog theme, Mad Gear Zone Act 3. So you can visit his channel, Bridge Capper. You'll see lots of stuff that I've helped him with on there, but I want you to see my process. Now this is taking longer than it normally takes me because I'm explaining what I'm doing. Now during the process, these are my steps. I first listen to the original. I create themes, or I categorize it into themes, and then chords, and then I take out the bass, drums, and the melody and harmonies. So it sounds very plain and basic. Then I start replacing instruments, start making those sound a little more realistic, do a little bit of mixing here and there. Later on, I'll decide if I like an instrument or not, and maybe it might sound better with another one. So that's what I might do today. So far I got done with the first theme. But let me see if anybody's out there listening. So if you're out there, please say hi. Let me know if you can hear me. I'm pretty sure you can because I'm showing audio going out there. Hi, Roma. Thank you. Thank you. Hopefully this one will be just as good as the other ones. All right. So I was listening to this just a few minutes ago, and it sounds a lot different on my speakers than it does on my headphones. And I wasn't really happy with the sound of the guitar. Now, there's different things we can do about that. We can either change some of the performance elements of the guitar, or we could change the guitar completely. We have lots of options. So let's go to the second part. Now, in this case, the second part, I don't know if I'm going to use electric guitar or not. This is not worked on. This is only notes and rhythm. So here's just the electric guitars with playing the melody and harmony. I think those are going to sound good, harmonizing. I could do synth. I think I'm going to stick with guitar for now. Now, if you might have noticed there was a vibrato on the melody, and this is something you have to watch out for when you're programming MIDI. So I have a MIDI region right here, which I have highlighted, and then I have another one right here, and this helps me know where a theme starts and ends and where the other one does as well. However, just because they're separate doesn't mean that the information from the previous one doesn't carry over. So I'm going to go to the first electric guitar melody or theme. Here it is. Okay, so that one has some key switches, or a lot of key switches actually, and then it has parameter changes. So I'm going to go ahead and zoom in. And if we go to modulation, which controls the vibrato, you'll see that I've set the parameters there. So on the high points, that's almost full vibrato. Low points, it's a little bit of vibrato. Okay. However, notice where this ended. So we have this point right here. This is where I set my vibrato for this last note. Okay, that's fine. But when we get to the new section, which I haven't worked on, and I click on this note, you can hear vibrato because it's keeping the information from the previous measure. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set a new parameter value to 0. And now I want vibrato on these long notes. Remember, I have it set to I have it set as a straight edge like this rather than curving it because the Ample Sound plugin has automatic vibrato. So it already has that curve set within. Where is it? Right here. So it ramps up to it. So I don't have to do that here. I'm going to copy this and drag it to this note and this note. I need to make this shorter because this note is small. It might not be enough time though. You know what? I'm going to get rid of this. I don't like it right here on this short note. Okay. So let's listen to that. Now, I want a little pitch bend right here on this note. Da-dum, ba-dum, ba-da-dum. I'll just play it for you. Okay. So how do we do that? We have to go into pitch bend. And then we have our value right here. The center line is no change. Anything above that is going to raise the pitch. Anything below that is going to lower the pitch. So let's bum ba da dum. So that's going up a whole step right here. Now, when I'm doing pitch bends, and this is important, so make a note of it. In order to get a natural sounding pitch bend, like a quick one, you want to have a shark fin shape. So this, like this, would not sound good. Right here, these lines are they're they're mirrored. In this case, they're going the same direction, I would say. But it's like a shark fin right here. So let's listen to how it sounds when they're mirrored. And now, like a shark fin. It's really subtle, but I think it sounds a little more realistic with the shark fin. So I want this set to 0, this value. It already is. So actually, I'm going to move this over here. And then this I want there. And it doesn't have to be perfect. So in this case, I want it to be human. So the timing does not have to be perfect. Let's listen to it mirrored. I think that's a little better like that. Yeah, so I like the shark fin sound. And that's not a technical term. That's not that's just my term. So think of the shark fin. I'm just going to set the grid so I can snap it to the center. And then I'm going to key switch a slide outward. And then right here, let's put a bend right there as well. Oops. So with pitch bends, it's a little weird. You can't really copy and paste, I think, unless there's already a line on the center. Let me see if this works like this. No. There you go. Boom, boom, boom. Whoops. I'm going to lower this just a little bit. Now, I don't really like this. It's okay. All right, let's listen back to that. You know, right now I'm just playing one note at a time. And a guitarist might want to play two notes at a time. So let's go ahead and make these overlap. Since they're fourths, it's going to sound fine. Yeah, I think it sounds better like that. And let's make the lower notes just a little bit quieter. Because these notes are not going to be the same. You know, there's going to be some variation. Yeah, I think I like that. And then another slide out right there. That is on this beat. And then I want another slide right there too on that note. Oops. That was a mistake. There you go. So this sounds like it's a little early. Let's move it. There you go. And then let's extend these, lower the velocity. Now, it's really great to learn the key switches because after a while, it starts becoming automatic. You don't really think of it. Like when I'm going to change the velocity on a note, rather than clicking on the note, clicking on velocity, and then changing it manually like this, I'm still doing it manually, but I'm clicking on a note and my fingers automatically go to shift and command. And then I can change it like this. And then we're going to copy and paste this one. For that last note. All right, now I'm going to give this a little bit more attention to detail by adding little sounds here and there between the notes. So like maybe a little scratch. That's on F sharp 5. There you go. So it's like a little stop sound. And I'll make those kind of quiet. So rather than doing that again, I'm just going to copy and paste it. Same again. Okay, I think all of a sudden that sounds a lot better. Let me go in and adjust some notes. Da-dum, ba-dum. Now you don't want these notes to be exactly the same because it wouldn't be like that in real life. All right. Now let's make it sound good with the harmony. So with the harmony, what can we take to copy and paste that will sound good with both? Probably modulation. So I'm going to go to the previous track. Sorry, it's right here. Open up the modulation and copy that. Now, this might not work, meaning it might not sound good, because what sounds good for the first guitar for melody may not sound good for the second one because of its because of the amps and because of the type of guitar and everything. But let's see. Whoops, I didn't mean to do that. Let me, you know what? I'm just gonna make it easy on myself. All right, so I'm gonna just program in that modulation. Oh, it's already there. Never mind. I am having a brain fart right now. Okay, this is the harmony. Sorry. It's like, what's wrong with me? All right. So here we go on that long note, and then this long note right here. That's where we want the vibrato. All right, then we're gonna extend these notes. Ta-da. Since it's a third, it's a little closer than, it's a little smaller of an interval than a fourth or a perfect fifth. So it might not sound good if we overlap these two notes. Remember the rule that the more distortion, the worse it sounds when the notes are closer. So the further apart the notes are, the more distortion you have, the further the notes should be apart, because it's going to sound better. And let me give you a demonstration of that. So we have a high gain amp right here. I'm going to play an open fifth for C to G. That sounds good. Now C to F is a perfect fourth, but it also could be a perfect fifth too. So those are going to have the same or follow the same rule. But a third, it's starting to get closer. It starts sounding bad. Oh. That doesn't sound too bad. But as we get closer in intervals, and I'll show you the keyboard on here. As we get closer, it starts sounding worse. Well, Ample Sound won't let me, here. So that's horrible, right? All right. Therefore, I'm gonna see if I can make it sound good by lowering the velocity of the second note. I think it sounds okay. Here we're gonna extend that. Okay, and then I don't know if you've noticed or if you heard, but when a note stops, you hear this release sound. That's cool and all. It's really cool. But in this case, I want to minimize that. It gets annoying whenever it starts stacking up with the other guitars. So I'm going to go to release right here. You can still hear it, actually. Let's see. There you go. It's the fret release sound. So I want it all the way down. Just to clean it up a little bit. Let's start over. I love this series. I should book a few sessions with Ruben as I'm trying to get better at transcribing audio to MIDI. Also want to be able to compose this way. Thank you, Tyler, and thank you for joining. Just email me at hifimidi@gmail.com. Hey, so I've been watching your video on guitar plugins. Was wondering Shreddage Hydra versus Ample Sound Hellraiser. Which would be better? I have an NI keyboard, so Shreddage is better for me, but Ample is better. Okay. This is a good question because in all honesty, it's going to come down to the application. Ample Sound is, of course, they're one of my favorite companies, but they're not the only brand that I use. I do use Shreddage sometimes. In certain occasions where maybe the palm mutes weren't diverse enough, or they didn't have enough variation to them, I went to Shreddage, and that one has so many samples, so you get a more natural sound. But that being said, the workflow with Ample Sound is just absolutely amazing. I did a Zoom meeting today with the client, and we were just trying to get it to sound more and more realistic. It was an acoustic guitar performance. And he told me, I want to see what you can do to make it sound more realistic. So I started working on it, and I went through my normal steps. And he said, well, on this part, it doesn't sound that real. Could you make it do this? And there was always a way, or there was always an extra step to make it sound more realistic. And I think we went through like 10 to 15 steps in total, and it sounded really, really good. But that's probably the way that Shreddage is too. It might not sound great right out of the box, but it does have a lot of features in it and functionality that could give it a realistic sound. Anyway, back to this though. All right, let's see. All right, I'm gonna add vibrato right here to this note. That way, the second guitarist, can have a little fun too. And then this will slide out as well. This will slide out. And I want to make sure that first note is sustained. And so I'm going to make sure it goes back down to 0 right here. All right. Not bad. Not bad. Let's fix the bass. I'm going to lower this guitar real quick. Now that doesn't sound bad. Boom. So I'm imagining this on bass. I'm not a bassist, but I know how to play some basic, no pun intended, things on bass performances. Bum, 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 bum. I think this would be cut off. This note would be cut off, so it wouldn't ring out. Let me give the top notes some variation. Actually, I'm gonna vary the rhythm on this, if anything. So I'm gonna go to my quantized settings. I'm gonna set the ticks to about anywhere between 10 and 15 is gonna be significant enough to give it more of a human element without sounding sloppy. So quantize. And then I'm going to take the top notes because those are the offbeat eighth notes. meaning that these notes on the bottom are right on the beat. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, and these are on the ands. The top notes are on the ands. I'm gonna give those variation in their velocities. That way they're not all the same. I'm gonna keep it a little low at 20%. Okay. These are subtle changes, but they make a big difference as a whole. Okay, so how can we make that a little more interesting? Maybe splitting the top note. Okay. Yeah, just to make it match the toms a little bit. And then we'll make this one a little louder. And then we'll split that one as well. Same with this. Don't let the notes be the same velocity. That way you can tell them apart. And then this one. I have hiccups right now, and I have some water right here. I'm gonna drink the water, just so the hiccups might go away. I also had a big lunch with my daughter, so I didn't stop eating. Well, I eventually did, but that's what happens when I get full. And then right here we have a little snare here, ba-da-dum. So I'm gonna split this one, ba-da-dum. That way it gives the same rhythm as the snare. Okay. Now let's hear these guitars together. Now I feel like this guitar is really loud, but I don't want to keep just lowering the volume. All right, let's listen from the beginning. All right, now let's work on the drums. Drums sound a little weak. Remember that our snare, because of the type of music it is, our snare has to be really loud. So I'm going to go ahead and raise that velocity. And then on these double hits on the kick, doom doom, doom doom. The first one has to be strong. The second one can be a little weak, just so that we kind of feel it. So raise that velocity like really quickly. And you're going to feel that it has more of a punch, but it also has a groove because not all the hits are the same. You hear how it backs off really quickly? Doom, 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 like a heartbeat. That's what you want. All right, let's do that with the toms too. So just raise the first one in the group. I feel like I'm painting, you know, just giving those little brush strokes. Okay, good. Now, I have to imagine myself as a drummer. So I have the kick, which is with my right foot, or left foot if you're a lefty. Boom, boom, ba. So the right hand's hitting the snare, or actually maybe the left hand, doom, doom, ba, and then both hands are hitting the tom. Boom, boom, ba, so what else can I do at the same time? My hands are pretty much occupied. So I want some type of cymbal or some type of crash or ride or hi-hat in there just to give it that sizzle. But I don't want to make it so unrealistic because you don't have 5 hands or you don't have 3 hands. So doom, doom, da. So I have to try to think of it. But if I had single hits on the hi-hat, it would sound kind of empty. So let me show you what I'm talking about. So notice that I'm filling in the hi-hat part on the empty spaces or the spaces that are less dense. But just because you can does not mean you should, because it might not sound good. Yeah, it doesn't sound good. I want more, I want a faster rhythm. But we can't have that. Can we? It would be too fast. It would be a really fast switch from the tom to the hi-hat. So instead, I'm going to do a closed hi-hat. That's where the left foot is just pushing the pedal down and it's going just to have some sizzle in there. Where is that? Oh, that's the wrong instrument. Hold on. All right, let's go back in there. Usually, closed hi-hat is G sharp 1. G sharp 1, so right here. Oh, right here, sorry. So this one we can actually place on every quarter because it's not getting in the way of anything. Whoops. Now, in reality, you would not be hitting it this hard at full volume. It's just sort of like a timekeeper. So I'm going to lower the velocity. And on this part, we can add a tambourine, you know, second percussionist. Maybe we can have a little more. There you go. All right, that sounds a little bit better. I'm going to go back and put a tambourine or shaker or something just to give it some more energy on that section. All right, now let's focus on rhythm guitar. I'm going to go ahead and mute the electrics or the lead in the harmony. Now, when you're listening to when you're programming your electric rhythm guitar, listen to the drums, or if you're vice versa, the drums, listen to the electric guitar. Because they're going to play a lot of the same hits. Or your rhythm guitar is going to give it a certain feel as well. So rather than bump, 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 you can go bump, 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 bump. You can give it some type of rhythm to make it more interesting. So I want to play around with that. Now in the last videos, I showed you that these are my chord key switches. I set my chords to be on certain keys, and here they are. Up here are my chugs or my palm muted strokes. So let me open up that instrument. So let's use that rhythm. So this is all going to be downstrokes. Bum, 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 bum. And then right here, This is going to be open. So I'm going to, not open, full stroke. Okay. And right here, maybe I could add a little muted stroke. Remember the upstroke is going to be quieter, softer. And bum, 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 bum. Sorry. 2, 3, tukadum. I want tukadum. So muted right here. So it's copying the snare right there. And then this is a repeat. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy and paste this, or repeat this. So imagine if you're strumming a guitar, right? Bum, 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 bum. This note right here is going to be accented. Bum, bum, bum. The second beat. Bum, 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 bum. So I'm going to make these a little quieter. Maybe a little softer. Whoops. So imagine bum, bum, ba, 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 ba. That's going to determine whatever note is going to be accented. Make that one louder. Make the rest of them quieter. So bum, 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 bum. And then we're going to do the same thing with this, using this as the guide. We're going to use this as a guide. And then I'm going to go back in here and actually delete this because I did all this work over here. I'm just going to duplicate it. All right. Whoa, stop. All right. So there's something, I like it for the most part, but there's something in there that's a little weird. Some of the notes are hanging over chord changes, or during the chord changes. Right there. So what do we do in that case? I'll tell you right now, but let me just listen to it one more time. All right. So this note right here is holding on too long. There is a solution. So silent press, that is on G5. Silent press mutes all ringing notes. Okay, so where do we put it? Good question. Let's try right here, okay? There you go, it works. So it muted this note, that way this one came in clean. All right, so we want that right there. Right there. Hmm. Right there. And right there. And let's lower the velocity. That way it's not loud, that little sound. Okay, so somebody, Michael, asks, sorry if this is a stupid question, but why is it important that it can be played by one drummer? Couldn't there be two drummers? Yes, you're right. You're right. That's a very good point, and that brings up the topic of the two philosophies when it comes to MIDI programming. Do you break the rules because you can, and create a totally new performance that would not be possible, or would be impossible with one drummer, with one musician, or do you try to be as close to the real thing as possible, like to a real musician? In this case, I'm trying to show people. I guess it's trying to please a certain audience, the purists. But you're exactly right, Michael. You can absolutely add whatever the heck you want, and that's the beauty of working with virtual instruments, is that you're creating the impossible. You're creating realistic things, but you're also creating music that could otherwise not be done. So that's a very good point. All right, let's listen to this with the melody. Okay, cool. Now notice that as we start stacking up stuff, things start getting lost in the mix. And when this happens, I start pointing fingers, like which instrument is causing that? Which instrument is most important? Which instrument is causing that? I always think, this is my philosophy, that the melody is the most important part of music. When you're playing classical piano or classical music, the accompaniment takes a back seat to the melody. If you're playing melody with your right hand, the left hand is usually quieter. If you're playing melody with your left hand, the right hand is usually quieter. So who's playing melody? You're the most important part, the melody. And then is the rhythm or the accompaniment getting in the way of that? Then the accompaniment has to step aside. And in this case, it would probably be EQ. So let me show you. Let me show you what I'm talking about. I'm going to mute the drums and the bass and just leave the guitars. Now, I really like the sound of the rhythm guitar. However, there are frequencies that are competing with the melody. So let me duck those frequencies out a little bit, or let me scoop those out really quickly. So let's listen. Let's look at this, at the melody. Where do most of the notes take place? I would say right in this region right here, okay? I say that because this region right here is the clarity. This is the sort of like the bite, and this is the high pitches that we're hearing, and well, and to some extent these low ones as well. But most of it's happening right here, I can see. So I'm going to go into the rhythm guitar, open up the EQ. In this case, you know what? I'm going to open up a separate EQ. That way you can see better what I'm doing. And I'm going to loop this and start carving out of this rhythm guitar. Do you notice in the same area, this rhythm guitar is taking up that space? And I don't know if you noticed that. It was just a subtle change, -3 decibels in this same area, and the Q is pretty wide. But that melody started sounding like it was popping out. I didn't raise the volume of the melody either. Now, what do we do about the bass? Sorry about that sustained note. What do we do about the bass? Now, the bass has distortion and it sounds pretty cool like that. But there are some high frequency sounds that I don't want in there. So I'm just going to shave that off a little bit. Now, the bass still sounds chunky and distorted, but when I started cutting off those highs, rolling off those highs, it took a back seat to all the guitars. Another thing I like to do with the bass is right off the bat and I didn't do it right off the bat, is to take out every frequency from 30 hertz and below. So I set my EQ to 30 hertz and then start rolling it off. That way the bass is going to be low. It's going to be deep. You're going to hear it on your phone, your speakers, and your subs, but it's not going to sound too rumbly and muddy and horrible. All right. Dang guitar. It's annoying. Stop. All right. Now, let's start adding more instruments. I'm not gonna finish these today. If you guys want another part, I will do another part. This is kind of fun. I'm gonna add some more instruments that the client wanted. So first thing I'm gonna add is tambourines to this. That's just going to give it a little bit more energy. Wants attention. What do you mean wants attention? Oh, the guitar. Yeah. Well, it got my attention. The squeaky wheel gets the grease, right? Or the squeaky guitar gets the whatever. All right. I'm going to open up Superior Drummer. Now, you can use whatever. You can use a loop. You can use any other percussion library. This one, it just happens to have a decent tambourine on Latin percussion. And then I like using MIDI files because they're real performances. All right. Tambourine, where are you? Tambourine straight 4/4, and then in this case it's going to be 8th notes. No, 16th notes. All right, now that sounds bad by itself because it's not EQ'd. Actually, let me change this to tambourine. Tambourine. And that's only taking up 4 measures, so I want to double that. And let's listen. Now, we're going to do some EQ and some reverb in there, but I want you to hear what a difference a tambourine makes. And then let's start lowering the volume. Okay, now I think this needs some reverb. So I'm going to go in the mixer for the tambourine. Here it is right here. So we can see the signal. And then effects, reverb. I like using plate. And then I start adjusting the dryness and wet level as I'm hearing the entire track. Now it sounds like it's more in the back, like it's getting more of that room sound. All right, now I feel like in this part it needs a pad, just to fill in, just to glue everything together. I love synth pads, so I'm going to use Omnisphere. Why use Omnisphere? I don't know. It's just my go-to. It has good sounds. There's one in particular that I really love, where pads and organs. So I ranked all these, and I think it's basic dark pad velocity or the dark Juno pads. These are good. The dark Juno pad might be a little too slow though. That one's a little faster. That one has the sound that I want, but not the decay. So we might have to fix this. So it has a long release, meaning that when I let go of the keys, you can still hear that tail going. That sound still keeps going. And this has to do with the release on the sound envelope. Right now it's set to 2.62 seconds. I'm going to lower that. So now you hear only the effect. So I'm going to take off this echo. There you go. All right, I'm just going to play those chords. So let me take off this loop. Okay, I'm going to make that sound better right now. Better. Make sure I change the name. So here's a tip with the pads. If you played it, do not quantize it. Well, if you quantize it, use delay compensation, because more than likely your pad does not have a 0 attack start time. Okay? That means that if you press the keys, it takes a while for that sound to ramp up to its full volume. And I can show you here. See this thing right here? The A in ADSR means attack. If I set this, it's at 1.72 right now. If I set it to 0, you're going to get an immediate wall of sound. It's almost like a hit. But 1.72, where it was before, well, whatever, 1.83 is fine. That means it's taking 1.83 seconds to reach its peak. So it kind of eases in. Because of that, as you play it, you're going to compensate for that timing and start playing the note just slightly ahead of time. Well, if you quantize it, meaning you align it to the grid, then it's going to feel late. So watch out with that. Now I want to lower this until I can feel it only. Okay, good. Next, I don't want this to get in the way of the bass. So I'm going to lower it. I'm going to take out the frequencies below. Let's do 200 hertz for now. Let's listen to that. Okay, that sounds fine for now. I'm going to listen to this through my speakers later on, and I'm going to send you guys the final mix when I'm done with all of this and the link. How do you get better with melody, or at least on your level? Oh, okay. This is a hard question to answer. How do you get better with melody? In my case, it really helps when you sing something. I think any good melody is something that can be sung, right? Because what melodies do people usually sing? They're the ones that can be sung. They're the ones that I personally love lyrical melodies. I grew up with Disney, so a lot of the sounds that I like, a lot of the melodies that please my ear are the ones that are lyrical, meaning they follow the scale. They don't jump around randomly. There's an intention to everything. There's a very cohesive design to the melody line, and I think that creates a great melody. That allows you to create a great melody. So I'm going to step away from the project and just to address that because that's a good question. Let me see. I'm going to open up Piano Tech. All right. So let's say I'm in the key of C, just to keep it simple. If I'm in the key of C, I have to know my scale, right? And then if I want to come up with the melody on the spot, I'm probably going to stick to that scale. So I'm going to start playing something and I'm going to go outside the melody. So that makes me uncomfortable. I don't know about you, but that makes me uncomfortable because our brains are trained, at least in the Western world, our brains are trained to expect certain types of movements, even if we don't know the melody. If something goes to a place where we've been to before musically, but even if we don't know it but if we've heard something similar before, there's this pleasure that we take with it. I know there is experimental music or there is new music that pushes the boundaries or they go beyond that, but it's done in a tasteful manner where it's unexpected, but it lands you in this place that is just really wonderful. All right. So wait, let me go back to the question. How do you get better with melody? Are you talking about listening to a melody and being able to pick it out, or are you talking about creating your own melody? Because when it comes to creating my own melody, I sing it to myself. It could just be a couple of notes. So that's within that scale right there. And then I can follow a scale line. So, and I want to talk about theory a little bit, and I don't want you to think that because that theory is going to make you a better musician or make you better at performing music. There's a debate with that. Theory certainly helps you understand what you're listening to, and it can guide you to certain places. Because in theory there are in music, Western music theory, I should say, there are rules that have been developed or norms that have been identified, and when you stick to those norms, you're playing it safe. You're pretty much playing it safe. So I feel like I'm going down a rabbit hole or going on a tangent here, but so if you know your scales, if you know your chords, that's going to help you a lot when creating a melody. Then there's something called a sequence, okay? And there's many tricks that you can use. There are scales. There are sequences, which are patterns of rhythm and notes. So if I go up and then go down one, and then I keep repeating that pattern but start moving, that's a melody right there that I'm building using different elements of music, a scale and a sequence. So I think my pedal's gone. Hold on. So that's something very basic, but that's at least the principle of writing a melody. Um, it's really hard to create a melody, like let's say an arpeggio. An arpeggio is a broken up chord. That sounds pretty, but that's not the basis for a good melody. Da 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 da. It's really hard to sing. Da 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 da. Um, does that make sense? What I'm saying does it make sense? But if I have my accompaniment playing an arpeggio, and my right hand playing the melody, sorry, I'm messing up, but so that what I'm playing on my right hand can be sung. Da 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 dum, ba da da dum, ba da dum, ba da dum. So sing it to yourself. If you have a really bad voice, I can't help you with that unless you take private lessons with me or something. But if you have a bad voice, just stick to that principle of connecting those lines. Think about whether the human voice can easily achieve those certain jumps or those certain intervals, and then you have a good melody right there. All right, back to this video, because I am almost out of time. Okay. All right, the next thing is this client really loves tubular bells. Tubular bells have a really cool effect sometimes in music. So I'm going to open up Vienna Synchron Player, and you might have your a different one. They're usually fine. Okay. So percussion, velocity, and bells. And I'm going to open up the full preset here. So tubular bells have this ability to mark certain points in music. They sound very strong and important. Like this is something important's happening right now. And they also emphasize the key, just like timpani does. All right, yeah, make some more videos on until the project is done. Dark Juno pad sounds like a synthwave pad. Yeah, just change the attack on it. All right. So what I'm going to do with the tubular bell is follow the root. So A, G, F, E. Very easy. And this one, I'm not even going to record it. I'm going to program it in. This one, I don't want it at 127. I want maybe 90. Maybe a little higher than that. So maybe 100. By the way, this whole section, this whole song is going to repeat. So I may not even keep the tubular bells on the first half. I may have it come in on the second half. That way the second half sounds the repeat of this whole thing. That way the repeat sounds different. I feel like I'm having trouble talking right now, but I think it's the headphones or maybe the fact that I'm live. I'm going to adjust the volume. All right. So how long have I been on? 1 hour and 5 minutes. This is the point where my ears start telling me, hey, it's time to get off. All right. So tubular bells, they sound really cool. And the next part, which I will cover sometime this week. I need to finish this week, so I will make sure to do a live stream, and I'll probably get done with this entire section here. I'm going to start adding more elements or more instruments like orchestra hits, arpeggiated synths, and then at the very, very end, I'm going to just remix everything, make sure all the EQs, the mix, and then the final master is sounding good. So, need to sleep. Thanks for the stream. Just fast as possible. Please rate Omnisphere in 2023. Is it a good plugin for noobs? Yes, Omnisphere, I highly recommend it to beginners and advanced sound designers or professional producers because that thing has something for everybody. I'm not getting paid by them. I've only met the owner one time, but Omnisphere is powerful. It's easy to use, and it has so many sounds that are, if you can think of a sound, it probably has it in there, or you can probably make it. So that's my recommendation. Well, friends, thanks so much for joining me, and I'm glad to be doing live streaming again. And if you want to support my channel, I don't know if YouTube still has the donate or the give button right there. Just a little tip to thank me for this, or click on the ads if you're watching this after this live stream. Also, I have MIDI courses on my website, hifimidi.com. If you want to do one-on-one, please email me hifimidi@gmail.com, and we could schedule a Zoom lesson. I love giving those to help you work on your projects. All right, so hit that thumbs up, subscribe, notification bell, leave a comment, tell me what you think, and I'll see you next time. Take care.